Hello, today we're going to be making some resin pendants using dried pressed flowers and part A, B epoxy resin. Here's some of the materials that you will need. You will need resin AB, any mix-ins, flowers, a lighter, tweezers, measuring cups, something to mix with, and your molds or your pendant. And if you're doing the pendant, you're going to need tape. So first I'm going to start with mixing equal amounts of A and B in separate mixing cups. And then I'm going to pour them together into 1 cup, mix in 1 cup, and then transfer to the other cup. I'm going to mix for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to let it sit for 2 minutes. So we want to make sure that we have all parts, all equal amount. We have our resin, we've mixed it for 2 minutes, and we've let it sit for 2 minutes. We're going to start off by putting in a little bit of fine glitter. We want to do that while it's in the cup, just so we make sure that it's fully mixed in. Sometimes when you try to add it to the mold, it just gets kind of clumped in there. So I'm going to start by just putting a small layer. And I use the popsicle stick to kind of make sure that it gets spread all around. Definitely back here behind the hole. And before I lay anything down, I just want to go over it really quickly with a lighter, just to make sure there's no bubbles. The lighter will just ensure that the bubbles pop. You just don't want to hold it in one place for very long. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my flowers in. I'm doing this so that the opposite side will be the front. So I want to lay them face down. I just press lightly. I want to make sure that there aren't any bubbles underneath. So I do want to push on it a little bit. And then I just want to go over it again with some resin. I just want to be really careful pouring it on as not to move my pieces. Of course, when I put things back in, I can move them around, but as you can see, once you start putting more resin in, they do tend to move. And I don't want this pendant to be terribly thick either, so I'm not going to add a tremendous amount of resin. I do want to make sure that every piece is fully covered. And then I'm going to go back through and kind of put my things back in place. Over it real quick again, just to make sure there aren't any holes. And I can see right here this little guy sticking out, so I just want to add a little bit extra. So now we're going to move over here to this pendant. I'm actually going to be putting some dried wedding flowers in it. So I went ahead and put it on some tape so that, because this is overnight curing resin, I want to make sure that it isn't going to fall out of the pendant. So I'm going to go ahead and just spread it around. It's a little wobbly just because it's on this tape. I want to make sure that it gets to every corner. And then I'm going to go ahead with the torch. Now for this one, the flowers have dried out. Her colors were actually pink and white. Her pink flowers dried yellowish. So I'm actually going to add just a little bit of my own pink, just to help represent that pink that she had in her bouquet. So the leaves were too big to fit into any type of pendants, so I actually just pressed them into little flowers. And since this is the back side, I'm not worried about any of the flowers behind. I just want them to show through. Okay, and then I'm gonna go over it with some more resin, make sure everything is capped. Make sure all those little dainty ones are covered as well. And then after that, I want to move everything and replace it to make sure that it's gonna be where I want it. I'm gonna go over it real quick, make sure there's no bubbles. And then we wanna give it about 24 hours before we go ahead and pop it out of the mold. And even after 24 hours, it's still gonna be pretty pliable. Like this one I just did 24 hours ago and it's still pliable. You're gonna need about a good 72 hours before it's really hard and thick so that you can make your jewelry with it. Thanks for watching.